Welcome back to another episode of Boom or Bust, your home for NFL Draft Talk. I'm your host, Terry, and we're a week away talking about my final thoughts, NFL Draft. We are looking at the hog maw list, the big boys, the beef, the O-line. Alright, so as the O-line, I'm going to put them all together, interior and tackles, kind of talk about them real quick. And you know what? It's interesting. It's been a real interesting process for me because, you know, coming in, as I said before, I don't watch the NCAA, so I kind of get my information right at the front, and I really lean heavy on what the media is talking about, and then I get to evaluate and make my own decisions. So coming in, throughout the process, I think most of you will agree, the hype is with the interior linemen. It's been flipped. The hype is with the interior linemen, and the tackles aren't getting a lot of love. And so it was already interesting going through the evaluation. I definitely say this interior group is really special, but I would say the tackle group is so undervalued. I don't get it, especially coming off a year like last year where your top two guys was Garrett Bowles and, wow, I'm completely blanking on the name. The guy from Wisconsin that went, to the Saints. I'm straight blanking on his name, but you had a very lack of talent at the top of that draft class with the, tackles, to the point where your number one tackle went at the 20th overall pick. And then the Saints came in right at the last second to get another tackle in the first round. Otherwise, you would have had one tackle in the first round. And there's so many stats about the last time we had this and the last time a tackle went below this pick. And it was just baffling, to be honest with you. I just couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't say I couldn't wrap my head around it. I agreed. I mean, the tackles weren't that great. And I was shocked that you didn't see people kind of push them up like they do with quarterbacks, because I already talked about last year with those guys, they got pushed up so far that I thought, you know, usually at premium positions, quarterback, left tackle, and cornerback and pass rusher, they get pushed up. And you didn't see that with the tackles. People really recognized they didn't have a lot of talent. And so coming into this year, these guys are nowhere even in the same stratosphere. They're so much better than the tackles last year. They have way less holes. And so while the depth might be great, the guys at the top are just so good. And so usually with tackles this good, you're talking about top 5, top 10. I mean, heck, Greg Robinson came out of Auburn and went top 5. And it was just like, you expect these positions to be pushed up. And for some reason, from the beginning until now, actually it's gotten worse over time. People don't respect these tackles. And so that is interesting. I mean, you have a guy like Lando Brown that was being respected over some of the two that I thought were way better than him. And so absolutely kind of crazy to me. So I think the tackle class is way better than people are talking about, but I think the interior class is as good as people are talking about. Now, I've already talked about philosophy, position value, Quinn Nelson, all that. I think the top 5 stuff, top 10 stuff is crazy. It might be a little too rich, for position value, but, Quinn Nelson's a 5-star prospect. I just feel like there's other 5-star prospects as well. And so, it's kind of tough, but just an interesting thing. I think, overall, as a group, I give this group an A. I think, and again, if you didn't listen to the other ones, I do, I grade the top level talent, and then I grade the depth of the positions, and I give it an average, and it came out to an A. I really dig this group. I mean, you're talking about the top level talent is off the charts. Whether you're looking at center, guard, or tackle, they got some top level prospects. And then you look at the depth. I mean, for the interior, it's usually not that, you know, to have depth, you only need like 3 guys, because 3 centers could spread throughout the whole draft. And so for me, the depth, is definitely there. Tackles is a little longer of a list, especially when you got projects and small school guys. So definitely a longer bit of the list, but I think overall you just got good players all over. So definitely give it an A with no problems. Now talking about some of the guys I like, and I like a lot of these guys. Let's just start the tackles. Mike McGlinchey. I love Mike McGlinchey. Love him. And I don't understand it. To this day, I look at these people talking. I see the mock drafts. It's ridiculous. This guy is so good. And he can play left or right tackle. Like, there's a whole lot of talk about speed rush. First of all, it's overblown. You talk about some of the guys that people are looking at as tackles. You watch them in their tape or the Senior Bowl, they get destroyed by speed. Way worse than Mike McGlinchey ever did. And yet they don't knock them for that. But then on top of that, you gotta look at the quarterback. Quarterback wasn't 1, 2, 3, throw it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, throw it. That quarterback's running around, didn't know what he was doing, and made McGlinchey and everybody else look worse than they were. I think McGlinchey's top of the line. Then you got Connor Williams. I love him too. I honestly do. And some people are talking about putting him at guard. And I think he could work there, but tackle, I love him. I mean, if he was a little bigger and stronger, I would probably have him as my number one tackle because his technique is good. Now, I hear some of the knocks that I just completely don't agree with, and I don't see it on tape. All the inconsistency. Now, I didn't watch every single game, so I can't speak about the inconsistency, but, you know, the handful of games that I watch, and I try to watch more than one for that reason, it looks good, man. I don't see a up and down performance. I see a strong performance, and I like what I see. So Connor Williams, I'm in love with. I think his hand placement is good. He's strong. His technique's good. Yes, he's 6'5", and his arms aren't super long. So if you wanted to make him a guard, you could. I think he's going to be good wherever you put him. I really love these two guys. And then we're talking about some of our interior boys. Oh my God. I mean, there's too many to talk about. I love Price, Billy Price out of Ohio State. Absolutely love him. I think he's super athletic. If you think about Pat Elflein from the Vikings, his former teammate, he's Pat Elflein with more power and size. That's what he is. He loves football. He's a great leader. He's smart. Love him. Isaiah Wynn, I love him, but I've faded a little bit recently. Just the second and third round looking at Wynn. I think his run game is a little weaker than you want, but he was at tackle, and so you got to project him to be better as a guard. But I think he's a pass blocker. I think he's more of a pass protector than he is a run blocker. And that worries me a little bit for a guard, but you got to love him. He's got some of the best hand placement in the game. Great feet. I think he's going to be a monster inside. Then you got the big boys, Quinn Nelson and Will Hernandez. I've had many videos about them. You could check them out. I love these two. I mean, Quinn Nelson, yeah, he's a monster. I don't know what else to say. I think he has a few nitpicks, but he's a monster. I don't think he's a tackle. Let me kill that noise right now. People talk about, oh man, he might have value as a right tackle. I don't think so at all. Doesn't have the feet. But I love him as a guard. And I think he might just be a right guard. He has some limitation on his pull power or pull range. But I think he'll be a hell of a right guard. And then Will Hernandez, same thing. I think he's a lot more mobile than Quentin Nelson. But I love him too. Short amount of tape, but I love what I saw. I love the worker. I love the mindset. I just think these two are just bullies in the ring. Absolutely. Yeah, so talking about some guys that I might not be as big of a fan of, it's tough. I mean, none of these guys I flat out hate, but I would say Colton Miller, if I was to say overhyped. Colton Miller, I thought he was just okay the first time. Then he started getting all his buzz and accolades from the draft or from the combine. And I gotta say, like, again, I don't see it. I don't see Colton Miller, deserving of all this. Now, his work in the off season, his natural athleticism, those are some to note, but I don't think he's a slam dunk pick like a lot of people. I think he's very much a project. And I think he has a good ceiling because of his natural ability, but I don't see him as this slam dunk first rounder people talking about. I wouldn't touch him until the third round, to be honest with you. And then, I'm trying to think, like I said, there's guys that I think are rated pretty properly this year, especially as you go down the line, a lot of small school guys and whatnot. And so there's no one that I really dislike. Now you gotta talk about Lando Brown, just from the risk factor, boom or bust factor, where he's so big, he's going to naturally overpower guys and he's naturally going to cover people up. But there's that whole thing with the combine and, does he take it seriously enough? Can he be in shape enough? All those things. He's a right tackle. He's not a left tackle. We know that. But he's too big to be a guard. He can't get down there. So can he get in the right shape to play? Is he going to play like his dad, or is he going to be Zach Banner from last year? That's just too big to play in the NFL, which you never thought you would hear, but it's true. It can happen. You're just too big where you don't have the natural athleticism or you don't get in the right shape to play. And I think he can do it. It's just really up to him, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, there's no guys I dislike, as I said before. It's just kind of guys that are more risky. Now, some of the sleepers, and honestly, there could be a lot of sleepers in here, but some that I like. I really like Wyatt Taylor out of Virginia Tech. Definitely a guard. I don't know. I think he did a lot of things well. I think he can clean some stuff up. I think he was rock steady. A guy that could definitely add some strength and, and clean up his technique, but I thought he was mobile. He pulled very, very well. I thought, when he had his hands in the right place, he worked with leverage and he showed power on his blocks. And then his ability to zone and pass protect. I like everything. He's a guy with some all-around game that I really like, and a little bit of nasty attitude. Now, again, as far as what his ceiling is and whatnot, I think he can get a little better. But I think he's a solid starter right out the gate, to be honest with you. And then there's a number of guys, especially at the tackle position, because and I grade these guys at the position they played, but, looking, projecting, I would say a guy like, Martinez Rankin from Mississippi State projects as a guard, but I think he's going to be a hell of a guard because I think he's a hell of a tackle. I really think he could play right tackle, and moving the guard, I think is only going to make it a lot easier for him. So I'm really excited, to see what he can do inside as a guard. And I think he's going to be a solid starter that you can pick up right away as well. And then as a center, Scott Quessenberry from UCLA, I really like him. Really steady Eddie guy. Again, with the guys in the interior, you can be just a really above average prospect, and that can equal a great career. So while I don't think he's a first round or anything, I think Quessenberry is pretty solid, and I like to watch him work as well. So yeah, those are kind of my guys across the board, but I would love to hear what you think. I mean, I've already said kind of this draft, you're going to see the Nelson, I think, might be out of position. You might see some tackles go lower, way lower than they should. But I think overall, especially if the tackles go lower, you're going to see the O-line class spread throughout this whole draft, where you're going to get some real solid players lower in the round. So, anyway, go to comment section. Let me know what you think about this O-line group. Any guys that you want your, team to go after. Start that conversation. Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around, and thank you for listening.